6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join me, Mark White, here on GB News. For more than 2 decades, I've been at the sharp end of reporting crime and security at home and abroad. From the scourge of terrorism to the fight against violent crime and the deepening small boats crisis in the Channel, they're issues you rightly care about, and so do I. As GB News Home and Security Editor, my focus will be on the stories that matter to you.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here.
Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
On Mark Dolan tonight, my Mark Meets guest is the reality star James Argent. He'll talk about fame, losing 14 stone in weight. He'll talk about cocaine addiction, love and the future. You won't want to miss his incredible story at 10. In the big question, who should be the next leader of the Conservative Party and our next Prime Minister? We'll debate that with former Government Minister Anne Widdecombe, journalist Laura Dodsworth and entrepreneur and Dragon's Den star Duncan Bannatyne. And in my big opinion, I will declare which candidate has my support for the Tory party leadership. Is it Dishy Rishi? In Liz we trust? Nadeem, Grant, Jeremy, Kemi? Find out after the headlines with Tamsin Roberts.
Mark, thank you. Good evening from the GB newsroom. 9 MPs are now in the race to replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, as International Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt is the latest to put her hat in the ring. Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi and Transport Secretary Grant Shapps put their names forward yesterday. They were joined by former Health Secretaries Jeremy Hunt and Sajid Javid, who've both promised to cut corporation tax. Earlier, Mr Hunt explained why he's throwing his hat in the ring.
Mr Hunt, what made you join the race?
Because I want to do a great job for my country, that's why. And the sun is shining.
How are you going to unite the country?
Well, sort out our big economic and international problems.
Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Tom Tugendhat, is also a contender. He says his background in the military makes up for his lack of ministerial experience.
I've got souvenirs from Iraq and Afghanistan. I've got a dodgy shoulder and a dodgy knees from soldiering in some of the hardest parts of the world. I've got photographs, sadly, of some people who aren't with us anymore, alongside whom I served and built a government in Helmand, built the National Security Council of Afghanistan. I've got souvenirs, memories and experiences of the real world.
In other news, at least 15 people have been killed after Russian rockets hit a 5-storey residential block in Ukraine. At least 34 people are feared to be trapped under the rubble after the building collapsed in the Donetsk region. Rescuers are scrambling to find survivors. Formula One bosses have launched an investigation into claims that fans faced racist, homophobic and sexist abuse at the Austrian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton has condemned the report, saying he's disgusted and disappointed by the allegations which emerged on social media. F1 described the behaviour as unacceptable and says it's addressed the matter with the promoter and event security. The UK is set to swelter this week with a heat health alert being issued for some regions. The UK Health Security Agency warning comes into effect tomorrow and will be in place until Friday. Temperatures are expected to hit 32 degrees, with those in affected areas being advised to check on vulnerable and the elderly. The UK was hotter than parts of Hawaii today, with highs of 29.5 in London and the southeast. Scotland recorded its hottest day of the year so far, reaching 27 degrees in the Highlands. Serbia's Novak Djokovic has won his 7th Wimbledon title. The world number 1 beat Australian Nick Kyrgios in 4 sets, securing victory in a tiebreak. This is Novak's 21st Grand Slam win. TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Mark.
Many thanks to Tamsin, who returns in an hour's time. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In the big question, who should be the next leader of the Conservative Party? We'll debate that with none other than former Government Minister Anne Widdecombe, journalist and best-selling author Laura Dodsworth, and entrepreneur and Dragon's Den star Duncan Bannatyne. I'm in. My Mark Meets guest is the reality star James Argent. He'll talk about fame, about his incredible 14-stone weight loss. He'll talk about love, cocaine addiction, and the future. You won't want to miss his incredible story at 10. In the news agenda with my brilliant panel, should the new Prime Minister call a snap election to achieve a mandate? Does Britain still love TV singing shows? And when did you miss an important occasion in order to watch a sporting final? Reacting to those stories and many more are my panel of Olympic silver medalist and, of course, broadcaster and inspirational motivational speaker Chris Akabusi, broadcaster, TV personality and reality star Nicola McLean, and columnist at The Critic, political commentator and journalist Dr. Rakib Ahsan. Now I want to hear from you throughout the show, mark at gbnews.uk. The best bit of my programme is when you get in touch. And this show has a golden rule. We don't do boring, not on my watch, I just won't have it. So for the next 2 hours, big debates, big guests, and always big opinions. Let's start with this one. They say politics is show business for ugly people, but those vying for the leadership of the Tory party are quite a handsome bunch. This appointment is, in my view, the most important one since 1975, when the Tory party chose the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. 4 years later, she won an election and took over a country knee-deep in unemployment, inflation, union deadlock, low growth and high debt. By 1987, Britain was a global, economic, military and diplomatic powerhouse. How different our story might have been if it wasn't for her vision, leadership and tough economic love. And here we are again in 2022, having effectively dragged ourselves back to the 1970s with soaring inflation, a massive national debt and union chaos, this time self-inflicted as a result of the disastrous and, in my view, totally failed experiment of lockdowns. So where do we go from here? Well, we need tough economic love once again. Public sector pay rises or cranking up departmental spending just aren't an option, because more cash spent is more borrowing and more cash printed is more inflation. And inflation, the worst stealth tax of them all, which disproportionately impacts the poorest, is economic quicksand. Stagflation, an impossible combination of low growth and inflation, is something our next Prime Minister must battle to avoid. If we fall into that trap, we could be in it for decades. So whoever gets the job needs to understand the economy intimately well. Somebody with an entrepreneurial or financial background, with a deep understanding of the economic challenges that this country faces. We need an anti-woke Prime Minister who will cut back on the worst excesses of the online harms bill, which is effectively a law against free speech, or, as the impressive leadership hopeful Kemi Badanok brilliantly put it in yesterday's Times, it's legislating for hurt feelings. More on her shortly. Our next Prime Minister must wage a war on woke and must win it. Woke must not pay. Otherwise, you will have men who identify as women continuing to use female-only spaces, competing against biological women in sport, and reversing decades of female emancipation. More protections are needed for gay people too, in the face of misogynistic, homophobic trans ideology. Keir Starmer's inability to define what a woman actually is ought to be his undoing, and will be if the Tories exploit what is widespread public anger about what's happening to the culture and institutions of this country. The next Prime Minister needs to be someone that actually believes in Brexit, that campaigned for Brexit. Sure, Boris Johnson got Brexit done, for which he deserves huge credit. But it's going to take political courage, a strong will, and balls of steel to face down the EU over the appalling Northern Ireland Protocol, which must be torn up. No organisation outside of this country should be defining our territorial boundaries. Beware the snake oil words of some hopefuls saying they will seek to make Brexit work. That's code for diluting it, undoing it, reversing it. And we need someone dignified, a grown-up in the room. Somebody sensible, a safe pair of hands, someone with a work ethic, with discipline and a sustained history of being straight with the public and of telling the truth. Notwithstanding his many colossal talents, it was Boris Johnson's character, or lack thereof, his integrity, or lack thereof, his morals, or lack thereof, that ultimately did for him. But the Tories do need someone that's got Johnson's charm, his charisma and success at the ballot box, and who can build on the positive aspects of his legacy, of which there is plenty. The Tories need someone who can unite the party too. Lots of talented backbenchers were frozen out of Johnson's administration because they were not partisan loyalists. That was a mistake. A new cabinet under a new Prime Minister must represent the broad church that is the Conservative Party, and there must be a diversity of not just backgrounds, cultures and races, but opinions too. So where do we go from here? Well, it's my view that all roads lead to Rishi Sunak. And I called it in late January of this year, when I then called for Boris Johnson to go. take a look at my big opinion all those months ago. Partygate or no Partygate, the party is over for Boris. It's time, gentlemen, please. The fat lady has sung and the PM's goose is cooked. He has actually stuffed himself, if I'm honest. Dishy Rishi, let's get busy. If this famously hard-working teetotaler at number 11 gets the top job, I'll drink to that. Cup of tea, obviously. Yeah, could have straightened my tie. That was on the 30th of January, 2022, when the Mail on Sunday reported that Boris Johnson was planning to once again cave in to sage scientists and needlessly cancel Christmas. That great paper reported that it was the intervention of Jacob Rees-Mogg, Lord Frost, and yes, Rishi Sunak, that brought the Prime Minister to his senses. So it wasn't Boris that was Mr. Freedom all along, it was Mr. Sunak. Sunak ticks all the boxes for me, a reported lockdown skeptic from the beginning. Notwithstanding that Sunak was responsible for the complex but ultimately successful policy of furlough, no mean feat, and a great example of how he innovates and how he gets things done, it's been an open secret in government that Sunak has pushed back against the worst excesses of SAGE and their demands, and indeed Boris Johnson and his splash the cash spendthrift instincts. It's only thanks to Sunak's principled foot on the fiscal brake that this country isn't deeper in the red and in more economic trouble. He got criticism for Eat Out to Help Out, but it was brilliant for hospitality. It was relatively cheap and was proof that this guy wanted to unlock and stay unlocked. And he has a conscience. He said in his spring statement in March that leaving debt to future generations is morally wrong. How right he is. I want someone with that conscience and that principle in number 10. And this is a guy willing to deliver a tough message. This weekend, he's seeking the leadership on a campaign that Britain cannot afford tax cuts. Now, we can debate the rights and wrongs of that. I'm personally torn on the issue. But what does this tell you about Rishi Sunak? He knows full well that promising tax cuts, which all of the other hopefuls are doing, would help him get elected. But instead, he's willing to be straight with the British people and with the Tory party membership and say, no, the cupboard's bare, that tax cuts will come, but only in time. This willingness to tell the public what they don't want to hear is a rare and precious quality in a politician. Sunak would also be Britain's first Asian Prime Minister, and his story is the perfect British story. He is living the British dream. A son of immigrant parents, his mother opened a chemist shop and his father was a GP. He entered the city and made his fortune. He shouldn't have to cover up or airbrush his wealth. It should be his key selling point. His story tells young Brits of all backgrounds and origins that they can achieve great things in this country. And it's not his fault that his wife is incredibly rich. If only Mrs. Dolan was worth a few more bob. He's slick, he's charming, he's polished. He's a teetotal workaholic known for 16-hour days. He's a family guy with just one wife. That's right, one wife, there's a novelty, and two much-loved daughters. For me, Rishi Sunak is the only choice for our next Prime Minister, and if the Tories want to keep Starmer out of number 10, I think he's their best bet at the next election. And woke warriors with an axe to grind and division to sow will struggle to peddle their hatred on Britain's first Prime Minister of colour. It will, in fact, be another great moment in the history of this country after electing the first female PM in '79. I keep an open mind about the other candidates. I think it's a strong field. And never say never that one of the others could do a great job. If it's not Rishi, I'll bite your hand off for Badanok. And I'll say bravo to Braverman. Both brilliant and talented politicians. But I certainly don't want this hunt. So I personally anoint Rishi Sunak as our next Prime Minister. I think he'll be honest, straight and disciplined enough to get this country back on the road to recovery. All roads lead to this talented, energetic and young politician. Frankly, I'll have a Rishi fit if he doesn't get it. And his appointment Can't come Sunak enough. What's your view? Mark at gbnews.uk. I'm calling it for Rishi Sunak, which I did on the 30th of January of this year. But have I got it wrong? What do you think? Let me know. Give me your responses, good, bad and indifferent. Reacting to that and all of the big stories of the day is my amazing panel, three very good friends of mine. Olympian, broadcaster and motivational speaker Chris Akabusi, TV personality, reality star and broadcaster Nicola McLean, and columnist at The Critic, political commentator and journalist Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Let me start with you, Rakib. Sunak for Prime Minister, what say you?
Well, I think that, Mark, when we're looking at the leadership contest, I'm more focused on qualities. You did talk a great deal there about his ethnic background, and I do agree that he has an uplifting migratory story, but I'm ultimately looking at the qualities which the various individuals can bring to the table. I think that we need someone who needs to understand the severity of our country's cost of living crisis. That classic Conservative message that if you're part of a stable family unit with prudent working parents, that will insulate you from economic difficulties. That's clearly not the case anymore. So I think there's other problems. I think that in education, under the pandemic, something that you've talked about a great deal, young people, their stunted development under lockdown, the lack of social interaction. There's been real problems in terms of motor skills development, a record number of children entering language therapy. I think we have a huge housing crisis. There's many young people who would love to take on home ownership and start a family of their own, but those dreams are distant for them. And that's just, to be honest, that's just scratching the surface. So really what I want to hear from the various leadership candidates is really a deep understanding of the serious problems that this country faces. Now, charisma and personality, that comes into it, but there has to be an acknowledgement that this country faces a myriad of socio-economic and socio-cultural problems.
Well, I do agree with you. And Nicola, when it comes to the next couple of years, it is the economy, stupid. That will dominate. Rakib is so right about that, as well as the impact on our society from pandemic measures. But if there's anyone that knows the economy inside out, it's old Dishy Rishi.
Well, he does and he doesn't, does he? Because his wife is going to, be fine and they're going to be able to sort themselves out for the rest of their lives. I think we need to start looking at someone that actually knows the cost of living. I'm from a council estate and I've never, ever shied away from that. I feel like he's not really with the people at the minute, in my opinion. I feel like we need someone who actually gets it. I know what counting pennies is, does he? I have counted pennies to make sure, not as an adult, but as a child, to make sure that we could eat. Has he? No. And I feel like that's what it's coming down to at the minute with people. And I know that it is because I've got friends on the breadline. And I know that we shouldn't go back to things that he said when he was younger because we've all done that. But he never has done that. He's never sat on the carpet with his parents and counted pennies, and I have.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Nicola. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Well, he was more than me.
His parents.
Well, he was more than me. No, Mark, he was more than me. He was more than me.
I do hear what you're saying, Nicola, but
he was more than me.
Yeah. Aren't most politicians, though, quite comfortable? Isn't that the issue, Nicola? That if you wanted someone that really knew how
Angela
tough life
Rayner wasn't
struggle to
comfortable.
find them. Go on.
Angela Rayner, she came from a council estate. So, yeah, maybe most are, but there's a few that aren't. But you just said he wasn't with a silver spoon, but he was more than me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a fair point, which I definitely acknowledge. And you mentioned Angela Rayner. Many think that, Nicola, she would be a better leader of the opposition than Keir Starmer.
Listen, all I'm saying is I'd like someone that kind of identifies with people that are genuinely struggling, because so many are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you are right. And, of course, Rishi Sunak certainly had a comfortable youth and was privately educated. These are all important points.
But he didn't have a silver spoon.
Yeah. So Chris, what do you think about this? The wealth of Rishi Sunak's wife is certainly a stumbling block, I think. But do you think he should get the top job?
So this politics of greed and envy I don't like, and I certainly wouldn't be excluding him because he's apparently got some sort of silver spoon in his mouth.
Kev, about
I
that?
like the idea that he's hardworking, he's organised and he's determined. Quite clearly over the last couple of years he's had his hands on the economy as well. But I'm not quite sure I'd go all out and back him the way that you've done. I think that the chap that I've seen in the last couple of years, and as smart, as bright as he is a little bit fragile and bristly.
I agree with that.
When I've seen him in the media be challenged, he seems to have some sort of little, I don't want to say hissy fit, that's probably gone too far, but I don't see that robustness. So I'm not quite sure if he had a top job and got grilled or more got hounded by the Fourth Estate, the way that the current incumbent of number 10 had. I don't know how he would last. So that's a challenge for me. But this is not a beauty pageant. He's a good-looking fella, but actually we need to see what the policy is all about.
Well, there you go. I think that's a through line from all of my panellists tonight. They want to see the colour of Rishi and Kemi and Sajid Javid's money. It's all about the policy. What do you think? Who do you think should be our next Prime Minister? Mark at gbnews.uk. Who's your pick? And we'll discuss that in the big question next, alongside the best-selling author Laura Dodsworth, the former government minister Anne Widdecombe, and entrepreneur and Dragon's Den star Duncan Bannatyne. See you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go? Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Big reaction to my big opinion monologue. I'm calling for Rishi Sunak to be our next Prime Minister, the leader of the Conservative Party. Many of you don't agree, which is what this programme is all about. Let's have a look. So many emails, hundreds of emails have come in. Thank you so much for getting in touch. Yvonne has said, sorry, Mark, I cannot agree with you in support of Sunak. For me, there's a question about his loyalty and his ability to cope with unwanted questions from the media, where he has shown himself to be very prickly, a point made there earlier, actually, by Chris Akabusi, our panellist. Jackie says, Mark, are you mad? Rishi Sunak, how long do you think that backstabber had his slick website waiting in the wings? He will not cut tax, he will not cut the national insurance rise, and will not abolish the business tax raise due next year. Be careful what you wish for. Jacqueline, thank you for that. I shall reflect on your thoughts, Jacqueline, because you always give good email. How about this from John? Penny Mordaunt for PM lives in the real world. Rishi is a slime ball. You don't pull your punches, and that's what I love about your emails. And last but not least, for the time being, Lynn in Devon. What a beautiful part of the country. Hi, Lynn. I hope you're enjoying the show. Lynn says, Mark, I'm backing Kemi or Suella, but with a first-class team who wouldn't knife them. Good luck with that in politics. Brilliant stuff. Lynn, thank you for that. Keep the emails coming. mark@gbnews.uk. It's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day. Tonight, with multiple candidates, some high profile, some less well-known, seeking the leadership of the Conservative Party and the coveted job of Prime Minister. Just who should take over from Boris Johnson? That's tonight's big question. Let's debate this with former Conservative Minister and Tory MP Anne Widdecombe, entrepreneur and star of Dragon's Den Duncan Bannatyne, and best-selling author and journalist Laura Dodsworth. Laura, let's start with you. Who do you think should be our next Prime Minister?
I have to disagree with you on Rishi Sunak. Definitely not Rishi Sunak. I think if you've been paying attention for the last few years, if you've been watching his branding and his videos that he's been releasing throughout the pandemic management, he's been behaving like a Prime Minister in waiting. Now, his Ready for Rishi campaign, which just launched, the domain of which was registered in December 21, which is interesting, was, I think, truly awful. I mean, this video demonstrates very slick values, soaring, emotional piano music, but it was very low on substance. In fact, the first minute was an origin story going back through 2 generations of his family. Now, I think that actually there was a 1-minute origin story because his whole campaign has been very low on substance. The most that he did in this video was refer to the fact that we shouldn't be comforted by fairy tales. What he means is that we're not going to get any tax cuts. Well, right now, the country has the highest tax burden of 70 years. This whole video treated voters like children, which is something I really want to draw people's attention to. I think he's totally out of touch. I agree with your panellists on the fact that he can't really relate to the nation because he's so privileged, as is his wife.
Laura, they're all privileged. All politicians are privileged.
He's been all about big spending, big tax. He's basically a big socialist. He's not a small c conservative, unlike Kemi Badanok, who I think is a really interesting contender.
Well, Kemi Badanok is certainly very impressive as well, but you've complained that he organised his leadership campaign months in advance. Don't we want a Prime Minister that's on it, you know, that's so prepared, so organised, so disciplined?
That's one way of putting it. Now, if he was to come out and say, I've been planning my leadership strategy for months...
They all are, Laura. They're all planning their leadership. They all want to be Prime Minister.
It's disingenuous. And I think what we know we're going to get with Rishi Sunak is bitter medicine. We're going to get austerity at a time when we've got the highest tax burden we've had for 70 years. Actually, we need to scrap green levies, reverse the national insurance rise. What he wants to do is to take with one hand with taxes and then dole out little handouts to the poor with the other hand. And actually, I would say, in the spirit of Kemi Badanok, what we need to do is to reduce the size of the state and stop all the micromanagement.
Well, look, I'm going to come to you in just a moment, Duncan Bannatyne. As a leading entrepreneur, I'm very keen to hear what you think about the economy. But Anne Widdecombe, we have some breaking news, which is that Michael Gove has just endorsed Kemi Badanok as his preferred option for leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister. First of all, Anne, your reaction to Gove's endorsement of Badanok?
If I were Badanok, I'd be very worried indeed. Let's all remember the time that we endorsed Boris Johnson, ran his campaign and stabbed him in the back right at the last moment when Boris could do nothing about it. I think, frankly, Gove's backing would make me very, very nervous indeed. And if I were Kemi, I'd be looking behind me the whole time. I don't go along with your hagiography on Rishi Sunak. He doesn't have imagination. You know, he's not going to cut taxes. You say that's a responsible attitude. In fact, it's a very cowardly attitude. We all know from the Thatcher years that the way you stimulate the economy and get growth is by giving people more of their own money and letting them make decisions as to what to do with it. I also think, however unfair it may be, and I'll concede it's unfair, but knowing the press and the media, as we all do, with all the issues that there have been over his green card and his wife's tax arrangements, Your profession isn't going to let that go, Mark. You know, it's going to be endlessly looking for the next thing. And I don't think we need those sorts of distractions. So with some regret, because Rishi's a good Brexiteer, and that, to my mind, you know, is one of the biggest things I'm looking for. But with some regret.
Anne Widdecombe, you served under Margaret Thatcher. Rishi Sunak is Margaret Thatcher in a suit. This is a guy who's running a campaign based upon a tough message, which is that the country's broke and can't afford tax cuts. Now, we can debate tax cuts, but this is a guy who's taking an unpopular position whilst seeking election as leader of the Conservative Party. That's not cowardice, that's balls.
No. And Mrs. Thatcher said the country's broke, which it certainly was. If you can think back to 79, I can actually remember it. Mrs. Thatcher said the country's broke and we're going to sort that by making tax cuts, and she did. So I just don't think Rishi's got the necessary degree of courage. But having said that, you know, let's see how this election pans out. We don't yet even know the full slate.
Duncan, as far as I'm concerned, the only show in town is The Economy. You're one of the country's leading entrepreneurs. You are a wealth creator, a big employer, and your businesses contribute a huge amount to the exchequer. Who would you like to see in charge?
Well, first of all, we have a huge problem with the economy in this country. And it's got to be somebody very strong and very, very willing to make the right decisions. And one of the decisions that we have to do is we have to decide how we're going to get the tax in. We can't use the old traditional methods we used to use of business tax on shops, which are now closed and lying derelict. But we have a situation where about a huge percentage of people walk amongst us and pay no tax because they're what is called non-doms. Rishi is one. Saidi Javed is one. Rishi's wife is one. They have the ability to just say, I'm claiming non-dom status, the next 10 years and pay no tax. How can we have a Prime Minister, if we believe, and I believe, we should repeal the Non-Dom Act, we should scrap it, they should all pay tax, and that's how we should get the tax in. How can we do that if we've got a Prime Minister who's non-dom? We can't, it's impossible. I think we should have a Prime Minister who's not non-dom in this country.
However, Duncan Bannatyne, we don't want to scare millionaires and billionaires away from our country, do we? We want them to stay here and spend their cash, which of course they do, including the non-doms.
The biggest majority of non-doms came to this company penniless. And they made some money in this country. They're not bringing millions of pounds in from abroad. Very, very few do that. I worked with someone who's a non-dom, and he told me he was very, 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 very keen to tell me he was a non-dom. He'd sorted his affairs out, so he would never pay tax. And he came to this country penniless, and his children would never pay tax because the law allows to pass your non-dom status to pass to your children. So if your father was a non-dom, you can be non-dom and you claim non-dom status and pay no tax. It's not about how much money they brought in, and there's not many of them. And you can have another tax, another allowance anyway, where you allow people who come in and created so many jobs and brought in so much wealth to have a tax benefit. But it's not, the way it is every single non-dom can do it. And there's probably half the people who've applied to be Prime Minister so far are non-doms. I mean, I think, you know, I'm torn between Tom Tugendhat and Grant Sharp because I did want it. I'm really, really unhappy that Ben Wallace didn't apply because I think he would have been a great Prime Minister. We need someone with a lot of discipline and sort of this stupid drinking culture they have in the House of Commons, for example. So I'm torn between Tom Tugendhat and Grant Sharp as Prime Minister.
And what policies would you like to see them announce in relation to the economy? How can they help you and your businesses, your staff and your customers, Duncan?
Well, I think they can help businesses and help the cost of living crisis by reducing VAT from 20% to 17.5%. I think that'd be a big help. And you know, we've closed 4 clubs since before the pandemic out of 80. So that's the percentage of it's 200 jobs we lost, 200 people who are not employed anymore. And that would be a good help and not closing more clubs. A lot of clubs closed. So that's one of the best policies, and also scrapping the non-dom law.
Yeah,
And
you've mentioned Tugendhat, you mentioned discipline, of course, somebody that served in the military, a brave man, a man of integrity. What about Grant Shapps? Why has he caught your eye? I mean, obviously he's handled the battle with the RMT rail union with some grace, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I've listened to him talking over the last few days since he threw his hat in the ring, and I've just been very impressed with what he's saying. He's answering questions straight and very sensibly. I found Tom Tuggan a little bit weak on that, because he answers the question by saying, well, I fought for my country, so I'll fight for this. That's not really what he should be saying. He should be telling us what he's going to fight for, how he's going to fight.
Anne, you're not having Shaps and you're not having Tugendhat.
Certainly not Tugendhat. He was a rabid Remainer. I don't just mean somebody who voted Remain and then said, OK, so be it. But I mean a really, really rabid Remainer. And I think that is the last thing we need. We don't need to reopen that old sore. We need to go ahead now on the basis that not only we've got Brexit, but we're glad of it. So I set enormous store by that. Tugendhat hasn't got the experience, to heavens above. You know, we're up against people who've got years of ministerial experience, and he just doesn't have any, and it's too early. And the mere fact that he thinks that he is ready to run, I think throws enormous question marks over his judgment, quite honestly.
Grant Shapps is a canny operator, isn't he, Anne? Grant Shapps got in hot water about a year before Theresa May fell, saying she should go. At the time, he was pilloried, but he was on the right side of history.
Oh, well, you'll probably say that about all those who said that Boris should go. You know, once people start saying that the leader should go, generally means that they've been thinking it for quite a while and that they've been preparing, as has Rishi with his slick video.
But Shapps was right. Shapps was right.
Why wasn't he getting on running the Exchequer instead of making slick videos?
Well, he was very busy, Anne. He rolled out the furlough scheme, although I think lockdowns were a mistake. If you're going to keep people in their homes, furlough was a very successful policy, brilliantly executed in a matter of weeks.
Well, you would think that furlough was the sole invention of Rishi Sunak, and it wasn't. I mean, furlough was what the cabinet decided to do when they knew they were going to have to tell people they couldn't go to work. Come on, wake up, Mark. Where have you been?
Anne, I'm going to... Let me tell you, I'm always awake when you're on the show, Anne, and I'm keen to hear more. In fact, your nomination, if you're willing to share that at this stage. But first, let's go back to Laura Dodsworth. Laura, you're not having Rishi Sunak. Is there anybody you consider to be a satisfactory candidate?
Something I found disappointing, actually, in among all the contenders, is you can't put a piece of paper between a lot of them. I actually think what we need so badly is a sense of vision for the future. We need a long-term vision. I think the country is a mess at the moment, and I don't think people realise how bad the winter's going to be. Right now, in the midst of summer, it's easy to forget that probably tens of thousands of people are going to be in fuel poverty this winter. That's elderly people who'll be sheltering under blankets and die of cold. This is no exaggeration. It happens every winter, and this winter will be a lot worse. At the moment, the amount of people are paying at fuel pumps, national insurance, VAT, all the tax increases disproportionately hit the poor and the middle class. So we're in a mess, but we have to look beyond. I think that out of all of the contenders, the only one who I feel has a sense of vision was, surprisingly for me, Kemi Badanok. She ran a very good op-ed in the Times. I think it was intelligent, but also she's had quite a lot of courage to confront issues head on. Now, you referred to Rishi Sunak having balls before. I have to disagree. I think he comes across like a petulant child when he's answering difficult questions from the press, which he's going to have to get used to if he wants to be PM. But also, he's one of these politicians who hasn't been able to say what a woman is. He doesn't want to get caught up in the culture wars and identity politics. I think Kemi Badanok's quite exciting. I think she's a bit of a gamble, but, Boris Johnson was a gamble. I think she's a gamble who would pay off better. So she would be my contender. However, I have to say that I'm not a member of the party, and so I don't get to vote.
No, although she did vote for vaccine mandates for healthcare workers, didn't she?
She did.
In the Commons.
But they all did. They all voted for vaccine passports, apart from Tom Tugendhat. Look, none of these contenders have got unblemished voting records. I think they've all been really weak on vaccine passports, and frankly, this country only just swerved a totally dystopic, totalitarian nightmare. I would love her to say more about that. Even if she was to be honest and say, look, I didn't vote against, I didn't abstain because I'm in government, I'd like her to say something to assure us that that hideous monstrosity isn't going to rear its head again. But I think she has a vision for the future, and that's what I think is exciting.
Anne Widdecombe, could Kemi Badanok be the surprise candidate in the way that Margaret Thatcher was in 1975?
Well, it's possible. I'm not prepared yet to pin my colours to any particular mast. I was looking at Nadeem Zahawi because likewise voted Leave in 2016, so he's got a solid Brexit record. It isn't just a matter of convenience. And, of course, an immigrant who didn't speak a word of English until he was 11 and has made a huge success of his life, which I think is inspiring and the sort of story that we want people with difficult backgrounds to hear and to be inspired by. So I was looking at Nadeem Zahawi. I now gather there are questions. I don't know how well-founded they are, but there are questions now, according to one newspaper at any rate, over his tax fares. I mean, you just can't get away from it. As soon as you get somebody that you think is good, there's some question mark is raised. Whether we will get through this and have any candidate without a question mark against his or her name, I don't know, but I wouldn't bet on it at this stage.
In that case, parachute Anne Widdecombe into a safe seat. Anne for PM. And I promise you, Anne, I will eat my words. I will destroy every copy of my Big Opinion monologue and I will say Anne Widdecombe for PM, the best Prime Minister we never had. And I don't say that in jest, by the way. A deeply principled and talented individual you are, Anne. And what a treat to have you on the show. Final thoughts from Duncan Bannatyne. How important are the next couple of years in terms of government policy, in terms of the new Prime Minister in the world of business?
They're phenomenally important. We have a situation where we can't even pay the interest on the money we've borrowed because of Rishi's ridiculous furlough scheme, where he allowed people to actually go on furlough and have another job, and the money that you loaned to companies which never came back. We're in billions and billions of pounds worth of debt that was unnecessary. So it's very important we start paying down our debt, but also not increasing taxes for the working man. And so we need somebody to come in very quickly and spend the next 2 years really sorting the country out.
A privilege to have you on the show, Duncan, and do join us again soon. And also a delight to have Anne Widdecombe and Laura Dodsworth, best-selling author and journalist. What a fascinating conversation. What do you think? Who is your choice for Britain's next Prime Minister? Mark at gbnews.uk. After this, in the news agenda with my panel, should the new Prime Minister call a snap election to achieve a mandate? And don't forget, at 10 o'clock, my Mark Meets guest is the star of Towie. He'll talk about fame. He'll talk about losing 14 stone, cocaine addiction, and coming back to survive the whole story. That's right, James Argent, Arg, is live at 10. Plus, in my take at 10, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. See you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
More emails coming in. Who should be our next Prime Minister? Producer Carl in our digital team has now edited the Big Opinion monologue. You can catch up with it on @GBNews on our Twitter feed. But this from David. Mark, to echo Anne Widdecombe, wake up, where have you been? We need to apply 3 tests to any of the Tory candidates. 1, competence, 2, integrity, and finally 3, being in touch with the people. He lost the UK 11 billion by not insuring us against rises in interest rates. Furlough fraud. His wife has nom-dom status until recently. Sunak is married to a billionaire. He went to a posh public school in Winchester. So to conclude, he's out of touch, not financially competent, shows a distinct lack of commitment to the UK. And there are also questions about his integrity. David's not having Rishi. I'm not interested in any woke nonsense. If you don't know what a woman is, God help you. Finally, don't shout at people who disagree with you. It doesn't win you any arguments. Well, David, I completely agree with you on that one. And thank you for your email. Do keep them coming, folks. Lots more to get through. And in the news agenda, let's cover this one. We need to talk about Sir Keir Starmer. Earlier this week, he called for a snap election as Boris Johnson's premiership collapsed and with the next Prime Minister voted in by the Conservative Party, not the voting public. We're asking, should the new Prime Minister call a snap election to achieve a mandate? Chris Akabusi, Nicola McLean and Rakib Ehsan, what do we all think? Nicola, I'll start with you. Do you fancy a snap election for our new Prime Minister?
Gone head to head, you've come to me because you know I don't really know about this stuff. So that's what I think's happened.
Nicola, you know everything.
I feel like you've done this. You've deliberately come to me for this reason.
Well, you're...
No, I do, Chris. He's done this. He's like taken me out. He's taken me out. Yeah, that's what's happened.
But it's a valid question, isn't it? So whoever gets the top job, you know, should they go to the country and seek a mandate? What do you think?
Well, if I was Keir Starmer, I absolutely would. 100%.
Yeah, and that's the issue, isn't it? It's about democracy, I suppose, Chris. Some people will feel that they voted for Boris Johnson to serve 5 years, that he's been taken away from them, and therefore they might think, well, you're giving us someone new that we didn't choose, so we'd like a say in that.
Yeah, but they're not going to have a say. So it's going to be down to the Conservative Party, isn't it? If I was in the Conservative Party, having got rid of your best ticket, which is Johnson, as far as a popularity contest is concerned, it would not be wise to have a snap early general election. You would be, the person who sits in that position will be better off showing the country what they can do with their hands on the steering wheel.
Right.
So, you know, and pulling the levers. Of course, Sir Keir Starmer would like a snap general election because right now the Conservative Party is in utter turmoil, untrusted. No one knows what they stand for. No one knows what Labour stands for. But because they've not been in power, you can't denigrate them for anything. But you've got these guys at the moment who are presiding over. It's a global situation, I know, but a cost of living crisis across the globe. Issues about delivering goods across the globe, but it's impacting our economy and people are feeling it. And but come October, when people really are going to have the struggling between heating and eating, you're right. I'd love to be Labour and say, look at this shower of faeces. They've been here for the last 12 years. Look at the state of the economy. Let's get these clowns out. And I'll be in. And you can't blame me for the next year where it's still going to be tough. Because these clowns, I must say these clowns, I'm talking about the Conservative clowns. But you know what I'm saying?
Definitely. By the way, Shower of Feces, what a great name for a band that would be. I've got all their albums. Rakib, I mean, this is a question of democracy, isn't it? If you are Prime Minister Badanok or Braverman or Sunak, perhaps you'd like to seek a mandate from the people.
I think that's possible. I think that if there's a particular individual and they feel that they want that sort of democratic backing, then they could go to the public and call a snap general election. But I think I'm more with Chris. I think that the more sensible approach, now some people might say it's an anti-democratic approach, I'd actually disagree with that. I think that whoever becomes the new leader and then the new Prime Minister is actually entitled to say, you know what, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of being your new Prime Minister, and then you can make a judgment, an informed judgment, after seeing how I've done after 1 to 2 years. So they could also frame that as a democratic exercise in itself.
A sort of caretaker Prime Minister, a 2-year audition for it?
Yeah, say that, you know, this is a trial period. See how I do, and then you can make a decision on me at the polls.
Well, and also, I know we talk about Boris Johnson winning the election, but actually it was the Conservative Party that won the election.
Yeah.
So actually, the Conservative Party are still in power. They've just changed their chief executive. And so, you're right. It's like saying, give me 90 days, give me 18 months to prove that I can actually have the leave.
Yeah. We're not a US-style presidential system. People should remember that.
Not yet, anyway. I mean,
well, let's hope not.
Nicola, is Keir Starmer really acting in the national interest by calling for a general election, given the chaos it would bring to the country?
I mean, I get what he's doing, and I really like him. I know that that's probably really against what everyone else thinks.
This show's all about opinions.
I like Keir Starmer. So
Yeah.
I'm with...
And therefore, you think he's probably right to call an election?
Well, he probably is, because he wants the job.
Someone-
Like, I would call it if I wanted the job.
For sure. Well, look, let's bring in another good friend of ours, good friend of the show, our favourite Labour supporter, the brilliant journalist and editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. Hi, Peter. Great to see you. Do you think that Starmer will cause chaos for the country if he gets this election? It's the last thing the country needs, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, of course, Keir Starmer's had a big win on principle this week when he was vindicated over Beergate. It never happened. There was no Beergate. But he's right to think about the electoral mathematics, try and build on that. If you're the opposition, you should always call for a general election. And actually, as a Labour supporting person, to try and put integrity back at the heart of government and fair economic values, social justice, is a real plus point. So while, of course, there is turbulence in the country and in the Conservative Party, but if you're leader of the opposition, you have no choice but to call for a general election. And of course, they'll do so knowing that there's around 50 opinion polls this year, and Keir Starmer's been ahead in all but one.
Peter Edwards, you're a good friend of the show, good friend of mine. I know full well that you would love to have a Labour government. So how do you achieve a Labour government? Who is your preferred leader of the Conservative Party that you can beat?
Well, I think they're all beatable. And I think for simple reasons that, one, there's a cost of living crisis. Let's throw Westminster games out the window. There is a pinch on most ordinary working folk now. That is really painful. But then when you do think about a possible campaign, I work for the Labour Party, an MP in opposition under Ed Miliband. You think about how you'd fight that person. So, Jeremy Hunt, he was Health Secretary and then wrote a book saying how bad the NHS was under the Tories. Ben Wallace, less than a year ago, said he wanted to cut number of troops by 10,000. Sajid Javid, former investment banker, Rishi Sunak, fined for breaching the rules. The list goes on and on and on. I think they're all very discredited figures. I think the real uncertainty is around Liz Truss, who I think is also completely discredited, but she's clearly a popular and populist figure, and that poses quite a conundrum from Labour. And I think just writing her off as Boris and a Jess is rude and a little bit sexist.
Peter Edwards, thanks so much for joining us at the last minute. A brilliant conversation. I wish we had longer. Do come and join us on the panel very soon. Peter Edwards, former editor of Labour List, journalist, podcast host, and much more. Lots more to come in the programme, but keep those opinions coming, Mark, at gbnews.uk. After this, it's my take at 10, and I'm dealing with Prince Harry, who's got a distinct case of writer's block. Find out more about that at 10 o'clock. My Mark Meets guest live in the studio, one of the biggest stars of reality TV, James Argent from Towie. He's lost 14 stone. He's overcome cocaine addiction. He'll talk about fame, love, money and recovery straight after this. Plus more from my panel. Burning issues of the day. Does Britain still love TV singing shows? And when did you miss an important occasion in order to watch a sporting final? Lots to get through. Our best is yet to come. See you in 5.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
It's 10 o'clock and this is Mark Dolan Tonight. My Mark Meets guest is the reality star James Argent. He'll talk about fame, his incredible 14-stone weight loss. He'll talk about love, cocaine addiction and the future. You won't want to miss his incredible and inspiring story in just a few minutes' time. In the news agenda with my panel, does Britain still love TV singing shows? Simon Cowell is bringing X Factor back to Channel 5. Also, when did you miss an important occasion in order to watch a sporting final? And tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, bang on with full panel reaction. And after this, my take at 10. I'll be dealing with Prince Harry, who's got a touch of writer's block. Long may it continue. First, the headlines with me all evening, Tamsin Roberts.
Mark, thank you. Good evening from the GB newsroom. Well, we can start with some breaking news this hour. Liz Truss has announced that she'll enter the race for the Tory leadership. The Foreign Secretary becomes the 10th MP to throw their hat into the ring. She pledges to reverse the national insurance hike and keep corporation tax competitive. Well, this comes as MPs have been picking their sides for the Tory leadership, with former Levelling Up Minister Michael Gove backing Kemi Badanok for the job. Well, 10 MPs are now in the race to replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, as International Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt was also put her name into the hat today. She joins former Health Secretaries Jeremy Hunt and Sajid Javid, who've both promised to cut corporation tax. Earlier, Mr Hunt explained why he's throwing his hat in the ring.
Mr Hunt, what made you join the race?
Because I want to do a great job for my country, that's why. And the sun is shining.
How are you going to unite the country?
Well, sort out our big economic and international problems.
Well, Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Tom Tugendhat, is also a contender. He says his background in the military makes up for his lack of ministerial experience.
I've got souvenirs from Iraq and Afghanistan. I've got a dodgy shoulder and a dodgy knees from soldiering in some of the hardest parts of the world. I've got photographs, sadly, of some people who aren't with us anymore, alongside whom I served and built a government in Helmand, built the National Security Council of Afghanistan. I've got souvenirs, memories and experiences of the real world.
To other news now, Formula One bosses have launched an investigation into claims that fans faced racist, homophobic and sexist abuse at the Austrian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton has condemned the report, saying he's disgusted and disappointed by the allegations, which emerged on social media. F1 described the behaviour as unacceptable and says it's addressed the matter with the promoter and event security. At least 15 people have been killed after Russian rockets hit a 5-storey residential block in Ukraine. At least 34 people are feared to be trapped under the rubble after the building collapsed in the Donetsk region. Rescuers are still searching for survivors. The UK is set to swelter this week with a heat health alert being issued for some regions. The UK Health Security Agency warning comes into effect tomorrow and will be in place until Friday. Temperatures are expected to hit 32 degrees, with those affected areas being advised to check on the vulnerable and elderly. The UK was hotter than parts of Hawaii today, with highs of 29 in London and the southeast. Scotland recorded its hottest day of the year so far, reaching 27 degrees in the Highlands. Serbia's Novak Djokovic has won his 7th Wimbledon title. The world number one beat Australian Nick Kyrgios in 4 sets, securing victory in a tie-break. This is Novak's 21st Grand Slam title. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Mark.
Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. Big stories, big guests and big opinions. My Mark Meets guest is the reality star James Argent. Arg is live in the studio. He'll talk about fame, about his incredible 14-stone weight loss. He looks incredible. He'll talk about love and his bright future. You won't want to miss his incredible and inspiring story in just a moment. In the news agenda with my panel, does Britain still love TV singing shows? Simon Cowell is bringing the X Factor back to British TV in a mega millions deal with Channel 5. We'll talk to Arj about that as well, because, of course, he is a singer, among many other things. Also, when did you miss an important occasion in order to watch a sporting final? Did you get out of a wedding or indeed a work event to watch Wimbledon today? We've also got another topical game show and tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 sharp with full panel reaction with lots more breaking stories about the Tory leadership elections. But first, it's time for my Take at 10. When you think of great authors, who springs to mind? Charles Dickens? John Steinbeck? Stephen King? J.K. Rowling? What about Prince Harry? Yes, the Ginger Windsor himself, the world's least happy millionaire, has a book in the pipeline. It's being pitched as a semi-autobiography, but looks set to be the greatest work of fiction since War and Peace, and probably just as boring. Well, there's trouble in paradise, folks, because the press are reporting that the intended launch of the book has been delayed to next year. Sounds like a touch of right royal writer's block. Well, let's hope this privileged aristo doesn't shake it off, because his proposed tell-all tome threatens to do more damage to his family relations, to his reputation in this country, to the venerated institution into which he was born, and it will exact more needless stress and anxiety on his 96-year-old grandmother, the Queen. Not satisfied with dissing his dad, saying he was less than a great father, and pouring a cold bucket of the brown stuff over his entire family during that Oprah Winfrey non-interview, it seems this lad wants to pen a misery memoir in which he moans for 300 pages about how terrible his life is. The irony will be lost on him, of course, that this tearful account will be penned from the luxury of his 16-bathroom Montecito mansion. I wish he'd flushed the manuscript down one of those loos. I've got no problem with Harry moving on, but that's exactly what he needs to do, and therefore spike this miserable memoir, which will further hurt the people who love him and damage the country that gave him everything. As long as he keeps his titles, swanning around the world as a global prince and signing multi-million-dollar deals off the back of his royal status, then hypocritical Harry will have failed to do what he said he wanted to do all along, which is to leave the country and leave the monarchy. My message to Harry is a simple one. Get on with your life, mate. We wish you well. Give up the navel-gazing, stop slagging off your family, scrap the book and start a new chapter. If this autobiography does come out, the only place it will be welcome is in the bargain bin of your local bookshop. Hypocritical Harry. What's your view? Mark at gbnews.uk. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the very biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, sport, business and beyond. Tonight, one of the very biggest stars of reality TV, James Argent, the Arge. From 2010 to 2018, James was part of television history as a cast member of the reality show The Only Way is Essex, making scripted programmes like EastEnders look old-fashioned and stale. Towie was a hotbed of love, sex, jealousy, revenge and high drama. It was a programme that changed the face of British TV and arguably of British popular culture. And James was a lead protagonist in this unique new genre of the reality soap. Since then, he's appeared in multiple TV hits, including ITV's Sugar Free Farm and Channel 4's The Jump, and amongst many other TV shows. He's as well known for his love life, often connected to the show, with well-documented relationships with model and presenter Lydia Bright and Gemma Collins. And he's had his battles too, having successfully overcome addiction to cocaine and having lost an incredible 14 stone after his weight ballooned to almost 400 pounds or 27 stone. Here he is at his biggest. There you go. Always a good-looking guy, but he definitely wanted to lose the weight. And the weight he lost, take a look at the after photograph. Just amazing. Talking fame, love, weight loss and the future, I'm delighted to welcome James Argent to GB News. Hi, James.
How you doing, mate? Nice to see you.
Shake that hand. First of all, you look incredible.
Thank you. I feel much better.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Well, I've been struggling. Well, I always kind of struggled with my weight throughout my whole life, really, like going up and down, yo-yo dieting. Like I could spend half the year being in relatively good shape. The other half of the year I could be morbidly obese. I just struggled to maintain a healthy weight and lifestyle ever since I was a kid, really. And then during lockdown, it got the worst it ever become, and I went up to like 27 stone. And it was at that point where I kind of knew I couldn't do it alone, and I needed once and for all to get help and look for a permanent solution. So I got a gastric sleeve,
which is amazing, and it's been a colossal success. How did it impact your life when you got that big? What were the day-to-day issues that you faced?
I couldn't tie my own shoelaces.
Really?
No. Obviously, I was extremely kind of depressed, unhappy. I had no confidence. I wouldn't even want to leave the house until it was dark sometimes. And just very, very low, just always tired, lethargic, and just had no real, just wasn't happy, really.
You've always been a babe. You know, you're an amazingly good-looking guy, and you love fashion, you love clothes, right? You are a clothes
I'm
horse.
getting into it now.
And I guess that was something you couldn't indulge in when you were big, to think about fashion and think about your appearance.
Yeah, now I do feel confident, and I feel like I'm at a healthy weight, the weight I want to be at, and I can wear what I want to wear and express myself in the way I want to. Do you know what I mean?
It's been a great success. So, what did the doctor do? I mean, it's an operation, and do they shrink the stomach? Do you mind telling me about
I
that?
I had a gastric sleeve operation, so basically I had 70% of my stomach removed.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I know lots of people that have had the same operation as me, but they haven't. The reason why it's been so successful to me is because I've done literally every single thing by the book and what the nurses and doctors recommended, and I've had to also do a lot of exercise. Like, I haven't just had this operation all of a sudden I'm skinny.
It doesn't work like
I've been going boxing every week, I've been swimming every week, I've been eating healthy, and I've been taking the right nutrients, vitamins. So I've done everything, because the weight that I lost in 8 or 9 months, it was supposed to be over a course of maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, if I was to be so lucky, and I managed to do it pretty early doors.
Now, I want to get your best side, so if you don't mind swinging slightly to the right there, because my gorgeous director, Tom, wants to see the whole of your china plate, because it's a very fine one. So, look, it worked very well. You had the was it one procedure?
Yes, one operation.
Yeah, and you're so right that you've had to put the hours in, and you've been very disciplined, because I've had friends that have had a gastric sleeve or other types of operations of that ilk, and they've gone back to the fast food and the donuts and the Mackie D's, and they might have lost the weight, it all goes back on. So
Yeah,
this
definitely.
is very much, it's not just a quick fix solution, it's
No.
more something that helped you, like a tool.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I wanted to, I could have eat little and often, but with bad food, and then you don't lose any weight and you gain weight again. But I'm trying to put the right things in my body, because more than anything about the way I feel, like if I eat rubbish now, I still feel tired and I'm motivated and I need like naps and stuff like that. But if I eat the right foods, then I'm full of energy and I feel.
Well, you
feel
can
more...
inspire us. Do you think, have you got possibly a diet book in you, do you reckon? A video or something?
I still need to have a good year or so where I maintain a healthy weight, and I really feel like I'm really know the ins and outs. You know what I mean? At the moment, I've lost a huge amount of weight in just over a year, but I want to maintain that, and then maybe you never know.
I don't want to dwell on it, but it is an amazing achievement. I think you must be very, very proud. 14 stone.
Yes.
So that's, I mean, to put it into perspective, I'm 12 stone. So you've lost an entire Mark Dolan.
Plus more.
plus an extra half a Dolan.
Yeah, you go.
And many people would like to lose a Mark Dolan. Probably Mrs. Dolan. But it's extraordinary, isn't it, to think that's what you've achieved.
It is, and when I look at previous videos and pictures, I kind of think, oh, that wasn't me. Like, surely that's not me. And it's just crazy to. It's just crazy to see how big I was.
It is what it is. You're a human being. We have our insecurities, we have our compulsions, and this happened to you. It was, I guess you would have to say you'd frame it as a mental health issue, would you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I think you mentioned before, like I've had addiction issues in the past, and I think whether it's drugs, alcohol, binge eating, overeating, all of those things are kind of tied in, and it's kind of maybe acting out because things aren't right inside, you know what I mean?
So do you think that there's the pattern that whether it's cocaine or food or, alcohol, that whatever it was a drug that you didn't have a healthy relationship with?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I've had to do a lot of like work, therapy, treatment, counselling, meetings. I've had to do all of those things because, no operation can fix what's going on inside your head, inside your heart and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean,
The cocaine, was that several years of use, or was it just a short window of time in which you got sucked into that?
It was over on and off for over a period of a few years, yeah. And
how did that start? Did someone in the world of showbiz introduce you?
Oh, God knows, I can't remember now.
No, it was a big night. And that's, but what was the hardest thing to overcome? Was it getting onto the right diet, or was it getting off cocaine or booze? Which did you find the hardest thing to give up?
I think all of it ties in with each other, to be honest. Like, my problems weren't specific to, like I said before, my problems weren't specific to whether it was drugs, alcohol, food. It was what was going on mentally.
And you can inspire many watching this show that have you taken the one day at a time approach?
Yeah.
Is that how you do it? What
yeah,
would you say to those watching, if there are people going through stuff now, I've got so many viewers that are going through a tough time.
I'm in recovery, and I'm still attending regular meetings, attending regular counselling, therapy, and if I still have days where I'm, you still have times where you might not feel as strong, or you might be having a bad day, so you've got to learn how to pick up the phone and stuff like that. And I just feel like I've learned a lot of tough lessons, and I've learned the hard way. So, and I think maybe it comes with age as well. I feel like I'm happy and accepted who I am, and the clean, sober life and the healthy life is one for me.
It's just brilliant. So, what are you allowed, by the way? What food-wise? What's in and what's out? Sugar's out, I would have thought, is it?
No, listen, I just want to have a healthy, balanced diet. I'm not going to turn around and say, there was a little bit of Rocky Road chocolate that was in the kitchen area there. I had a little nibble at it, but it's just just healthy and balanced. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to eat excessively, and I just want to eat the right things. But if I want to have a little nibble and a treat, then I can. It's about just being a healthy balance.
Well, I think that's very inspiring. Let's talk about you becoming a big star. 2010. How did you get on that show?
Through my best friend, Mark Wright.
Wow.
Yeah. I was living in Spain with my ex-girlfriend, Lydia, And I remember seeing like adverts of Mark saying, "Oh, he's going to be on this new show and whatnot." Me and Lydia ended up having a row. I come home from Spain early, and the producers were very keen on Mark having a friend on the show. I met them; they seemed to be fond of me, and then all of a sudden, I went from being what was supposed to be Mark's sidekick to like a main core character in my own right. So, and the rest is history.
It's incredible, and that was a very innovative and groundbreaking show. Did they call it structured reality or something like that, or was it sort of scripted, sort of real life soap?
Yeah, I think there's a few different terms for it. Dramality, I've heard of all.
We're
yeah,
somewhere between a soap opera like Coronation Street, EastEnders, and then just Big Brother. It was somewhere in between, right?
Yeah, like we weren't given scripts. It was all we had to be accountable and responsible for everything we said. There was no scripts. We might have topics to discuss, but you know, yeah, we unfortunately, I have to say we were pretty much ourselves.
Well, that's why it was so authentic, and you just saw that clip of it there.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it. We won a BAFTA, and we and it's kind of opened up doors for a lot of us to do what we actually really deep down wanted to be do. Like I always. Before Towie, I remember before I went on it, I always said, I wonder if, like, I always wanted to be a wedding singer and singing like restaurants, bars, weddings. I remember going on there thinking, I wonder if I'll get a few gigs off the back of it. And now I'm finally doing what I've always wanted to do. I'm a full-time wedding singer now.
Which is just brilliant. So how do people book you?
They can email my management, which is on my Instagram page, or DM them on Instagram, DM me, and yeah, we do weddings, birthday parties, corporate events, you name it, we do it. We get the party started, and I'm finally doing something I'm proud of and I enjoy it.
So the Arg, goes to big weddings and
Absolutely.
you set up a PA and you've got a band.
Got my own band, drummer, bass guitar, keyboard player, sax, drums, electric guitar. Yeah, we've got the full lot.
And I know the lockdown was obviously bad for business, but are bookings picking up now?
They are now. I did a showcase night recently at Sheesh restaurant, and a lot of my friends come show support, and that kind of went everywhere. And I've had the opportunities. I've sung with the band on TV a few times, everything's just. I think social media helps, doesn't it? Because they get to see footage of the gigs we're doing, and every gig we do, we get the party started. Everyone's up dancing, having a great time.
I think it's brilliant. What sort of numbers do you do?
We do the classics. We do a lot of like rock and roll. We do a bit of Motown. I do a little bit of swing, Frank Sinatra and stuff. I try.
So are you more of that sort of swing singer? You know, the Frank Sinatra, the Dean Martin.
I love all that.
Or are you rock and roll? Are you Mick Jagger?
I mean, I'd like to think I could do a bit of both. We do have a little bit of David Bowie and a few Beatles numbers as well, but predominantly I do like the kind of jazz and swing stuff.
Just fantastic. And how do those crowds react? You know, wedding parties and other gigs that you do. How do they react when you walk on stage? You are one of the best-known people in the country.
I just think that as long as, obviously they're probably... I think they're in party mode by the time I come on stage. And luckily, a lot of I've been well received recently at the gigs that I've done. And everyone just... If you want to have a good time, you want to party, we'll deliver some good music.
What kind of fun stage outfits do you go for?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, I've been trying to go for a little bit of combination of Harry Styles, Elvis. that's my inspo at the moment. Yeah, I actually saw the Elvis movie at the cinema recently. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to add "Can't Help Falling in Love" into my set.
Sure, yeah, Baz Luhrmann, the director, what a genius he is.
Yes.
That's a great news story, and it made you famous, Towie, didn't it?
Yep.
How did you handle fame?
Not very well, because I went to rehab about 3 or 4 times. Listen, it's just I've never ever take back the experiences I've had. I've had some amazing highs, some bad lows, but I'm finally at a point now where I really truly feel happy and healthy. And
would you change a thing? Would you like now that go back 15 years and Mark Wright says I'm going to be on this TV show, and would you say no or would you say yes?
No, I'd say yes. Yeah, I've definitely had ups and downs, highs and lows, but I've definitely lived quite a crazy, quite a cool life. I've definitely lived. If I was to go tomorrow, I can turn around and say that I've lived for sure.
Yeah, Definitely several lifetimes and lots more to come. We've got a mutual friend in Lydia Bright.
Yes.
A beautiful woman.
Absolutely.
And a very, very smart, charming lady. Your ex and a very good friend of yours still.
Yeah.
You're still on good terms? Is that
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, we're still close. I actually spoke to her a couple of days ago, so we often check in on each other. I'm very close to her family, her mum and her sisters, her foster brothers and stuff. So yeah, we're very fortunate that we've got such a great friendship.
And her mum's a great character, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the real. What do you say, the queen bee?
Oh, Debbie's unbelievable. She's a phenomenal foster carer. She actually threw a barbecue at her house recently, and she had like lots of foster kids, children there, and various foster carers, mums and dads, and I popped in, showed my face, and we had a really lovely afternoon.
And I know Lydia because I was on The Jump, Series 3, Channel 4's winter sports show. That terrifying skiing and ski jumping, which you did Series 2?
I did the series before you
terrifying.
did, yeah. Yes, it was. I think I was the only one who managed to come away unscathed, to be honest.
Yeah, a few broken legs, and I was exactly right. And of course, the skeleton, which is basically, when I explained
that was the worst thing ever.
You basically go down a kilometre of polished ice on a tea tray headfirst at 75 miles an hour.
The bobsleigh track, yeah. It
Not
was
fun.
No, that is absolutely petrifying. It's the worst thing. It's the most scariest, worst thing I've ever done.
You survived it, thank God. Also, another, great love of your life, Gemma Collins. Very well reported. Are you in touch, or are we not going to go there? What's the latest with you two?
No, I think no, I don't ever have a bad word to say about Gemma, and I definitely class her as a friend. I reached out to her recently when I found out her dad was back in hospital and had COVID, and I'm sure if we were to bump into each other, we'd have a right laugh and a good chat, but there's 100% no ill feeling from either side.
Any chance of, because you guys were amazing together, any chance of a little renaissance, do you think?
Well, no, Gemma's very happy in a relationship now. She's with one of her previous boyfriends, Rami, and she seems to be pretty settled, and I'm very pleased for her. And I want the best for her, for sure.
That's wonderful. And you guys were great together, and I'm glad to say that you're on great terms still. What about love? I mean, I don't want to be too nosy or impertinent, but look at you. You're a babe.
Yeah, I feel...
You've got your figure back.
I feel more confident, and I feel like I'm ready to potentially meet someone. Like there was... there is someone that I've met recently who's lovely, but she lives abroad, and we're in contact and stuff. But I'm literally August, like from now till the very end of August, I don't really have a day off, to be honest with you. So we're going to carry on talking, and hopefully we might see each other. We'll plan something, maybe at the end of the summer, maybe September time, something like that.
Well, listen, that's lovely, and I do hope that blossoming romance, it takes you a long way, because I think you deserve it. Honestly, you've been through so much, and what you've done is you've absolutely turned your life around, I guess by making a decision and by being really disciplined.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just a case of learning as well, learning the hard way and then learning, having a few tough lessons along the way, and maybe age as well, maturity, and just making better decisions. And I just wake up every day feeling happy now, happy, healthy, and I just I'm really living life, loving life, doing lots of travelling, loving my band. That's my pride and joy, and just genuinely really happy.
I think it's very exciting. You must come into the studio with the band and do a set for us.
Love that.
I would
Absolutely.
Love that. And rapid fire, Simon Cowell is bringing the X Factor back to Channel 5. We read in the papers today.
Okay.
A multi-million-pound deal with Channel 5. Do you think Britain still loves singing shows?
Well, I do. I still love singing shows. I think it definitely needed a break. The X Factor, I think that's certain. It needed kind of a break. But I mean, if you can find some of the talent that's come from the back of those kind of shows are just absolutely incredible. I've got one of my best friends, Che Chesterman, who I think is one of the best singers in the world. He come from the X Factor, and it gave him opportunities and stuff. So if I'm indoors, I'm not working, I'll definitely be tuning in.
So you think public appetite for those sorts of shows is pretty much as good as ever?
Well, I don't know about as good as ever. I think there was a time where Pop Idol and then followed by The X Factor was literally the biggest thing ever since sliced bread, and then obviously The Voice come along. I don't know if it's going to be as popular as ever, but I still think there's a lot of people that would get enjoyment.
And a smart move, as you say, to rest the format, and we can start to miss it, and then they bring it back, and I feel like it will do quite well for Channel 5, perhaps.
It needed a rest for sure.
Yeah, a bit of overkill. Amazing. And then last but not least, would you do reality TV again? So would you go into the celebrity Big Brother house? Would you go into the jungle? Would you do a revamp of Towie? Anything like that?
No, I've pretty much done everything there was to do on Towie. I covered every single angle from family, friends, relationships, makeups, breakups. I think people got to get to know me inside and out. So I'm still in contact with a few of the guys that are on Towie, but I feel like I've done well to be, I'm no longer just like Arg from Towie. I've done well to be like just James Argent in my own right. Do you know what I mean? So no, my Towie days are definitely done, but I'm still a fan of the show, and I often kind of check in, see how everyone's getting on. Big Brother, absolutely not. That isn't the show for me. It just wouldn't be for me. I think like shows, like positive shows, like I don't know, maybe a Strictly or a Dancing on Ice, them sort of shows where I can perform, entertain.
Maybe we could do Come Dine With Me together.
You never know.
And we'll both do healthy.
I think Celebrity SAS, that would be a type of show where I could really, truly show a big comeback. And do you know what I mean?
There you go. Watch
you never
this
know.
space.
You never know.
Definitely. Well, look, I tell you something. You've made an amazing recovery. You look incredible. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
And massive good luck with the band and your music career.
Thank you.
And yeah, definitely come back and see us and give us a tune or two. We could all do with that. The remarkable James Argent. Lots more to come straight after this. Hot off the press, the papers with full panel reaction. See you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
It's just gone 10:30, so it's a time to have a look at tomorrow's front pages, hot off the press, with full panel reaction shortly. But let's start with the FT, and here's their front page splash. Tories to thin the leadership field as rancour rises between rival camps. Backbenchers to set rules, 9 in race so far, and a dossier attacks Rishi Sunak. And we're expecting Liz Truss to step into the race in the next 24 hours, expected to throw her hat into the ring, the Foreign Secretary. The I newspaper next. Tory race to be next PM is Sunak versus one of the rest. Ex-Chancellor is favourite to win the leadership contest, but the Tory right seek to block him. Up to 10 other candidates will jostle for position to be the most plausible rival as the party decides the rules and timetable of the contest tomorrow. The Daily Star. Helter Swelter, Hawaii Sky-Vo. Warmer than Honolulu, and we don't want to work. A Saharan tongue of fire making 33 degrees centigrade Britain hotter than Hawaii today, or that's tomorrow, will tempt 70% of Brits to consider skiving off to sunbathe. And 41 degrees centigrade is predicted by the weekend. Yikes, say the Daily Star. OK, Tom, where should we go next? We've got The Independent now. Djokovic claims the crown. The Serbian won his 7th Wimbledon title and 21st Grand Slam after beating Nick Kyrgios in 4 sets. Although it's amazing because he's not vaccinated. I'm amazed he's still alive. Zahawi vows to publish tax returns if elected as PM. Nadeem Zahawi has vowed to publish his tax returns if he wins the Tory party leadership contest and becomes Prime Minister, following the Independent's revelation that HMRC experts are investigating his financial affairs. The Guardian next. Tory rivals scramble for supporters, and also culture wars injected into leadership contest. And also the Uber files. A leak reveals secret lobbying operation to conquer the world on the part of the taxi giant Uber. A leaked cache of confidential files has uncovered the inside story of how the Silicon Valley tech company Uber flouted laws, duped police, exploited violence against drivers and aggressively lobbied governments during its global expansion. Doesn't make it any easier to get an Uber on a Saturday night there, or a Sunday. The Daily Mirror next. 43 degrees centigrade, warning of killer scorcher, keeping cool. A photograph there of gorgeous brothers enjoying a treat at Brighton Beach yesterday, very sensibly wearing their hats. Ambulances in worst ever crisis. Patients wait up to 27 hours at A&E as hold-ups hit 999 call-outs. That's the main story on the front page of the Mirror. And last but not least for now, the Metro power block. Starmer and top Tories agree on decision to refuse new independence poll. An interesting fresh story from the Metro. Plans for a second Scottish independence referendum were dealt a fresh blow yesterday after 2 of the leading Tory candidates to replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister joined the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer in ruling it out. Jeremy Hunt and Sajid Javid said it should be at least 10 years before another referendum. And those are your front pages. Fascinating. Let's get a reaction now from my marvellous panel. We have Olympian and TV presenter Chris Akabusi. We also have the TV presenter, reality star and commentator Nicola McLean. And last but not least, Dr. Rakib Ahsan, a political commentator and columnist at The Critic. Well, look, what seems to be happening here, Chris Akabusi, is a civil war within the Conservative Party.
Well, they're out of the blocks, and Mr. Sunak has obviously been preparing for the last few months.
Probably last 10 years.
Well, yeah, but clearly, you know, while he was supposed to be looking after our economy, he was also preparing his leadership bid. But what we're hoping for now is some robust competition. There are far too many people up for grabs at this moment in time. And I like the idea that they're going to have 25 people backing them or whatever, and let's thin this down to some real...
Yeah, because otherwise a load of obscure people are going to start turning up, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, and it's great for their profile, you know, and for their jockeying for position in some future government. But actually, let's get down to it, whittle it down quickly, 3 or 4 serious heavyweight hitters. Let's get to July 21st. Let's get the first 2 people up there and let's get on with it.
You know about races. You are an iconic Olympian. You know about waiting for the starting gun, and you've got the people around you who seek what you seek, which is victory. How do you think? How do you think the right person can prevail? What do they have to do?
Well, they've very clearly got to have the right team around them, the right people in their camp. For example, I mean, it's Suella
Braverman.
I know she's got a very astute political campaigner, is Steve Baker.
Yes.
Behind her. Now, Steve Baker, integrity. He is a lobbyist, campaigner, a strategist. So clearly you see, and brings a large part of the sort of Thatcherite heritage with him. Therefore, if that is sequestered to her, you'd think that she could end up being... I don't know who she is, but I do know Steve Baker.
Yeah,
I mean? So
absolutely.
Like that.
He's been on the right side of history on more than one occasion, Steve Baker. First of all, he's been supportive of the idea of leaving the European Union for many, many years.
Correct.
And then, of course, he was critical of lockdowns and other COVID measures.
Correct.
And I arguably think that history is beginning to prove him right on that one.
And he agitated us to get it out quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that in the end had the ear of Mr. Johnson. So yeah, definitely. So I think that's a very astute guy to have in your camp. So someone like that, and I think you were saying it, but Kemi has also got
Badanok, yeah.
I mean, she's got the backing of Michael Gove, and that's a huge endorsement.
Yeah, I mean, OK, he's got his critics, but he's a heavyweight figure,
He's a
Raki.
heavyweight figure within the Conservative Party. And I think that when you have those endorsements, it attracts, it generates attention towards that particular campaign.
Yes, indeed. I mean, do you think that this could be a damaging civil war for the Tory party, or is it what Chris has suggested, which is, no, it's a competition and they all want to win?
Well, it depends on how personal it gets. And that's ultimately a decision that will be made by individuals involved in the leadership contest, people who are involved in their campaigns. I'd like to see a robust, policy-oriented debate as opposed to people trying to undermine other people's characters. Yeah. I think that ultimately they do all belong to the same political party. A bit of robust disagreement is absolutely fine, but I think if it becomes too personal, there's a huge problem in terms of the Conservative Party already looking disunited. And they don't want to worsen that image by having these very public disagreements, especially sniping at one another's characters.
They've already done it, haven't they? So, Nadine Sahari now is trying to bat off ideas that he's got something not quite right with his tax issues. And now we don't need that. We definitely don't need that.
And how did that come out?
100%. That's exactly what I'm saying. So somebody somewhere has leaked that out to the public and just basically say, see Boris, see him, see ya, you're gone. And I don't like that. Because in the end, all you're doing is giving more fodder to Mr Starmer and the Labour.
And so what if he's being investigated, Nicola? I mean, he can be investigated and no wrongdoing could be found. You're allowed to be investigated, aren't you? Nadine Zahawi is being investigated by the tax man. And that they're entitled to do that. And they may find that there's nothing to see here. And that, of course, is, Nicola, one of the stories, and it is in The Independent, that Zahawi said, well, look, I'll publish my tax returns. It's not a problem. I've got nothing to hide, says Nadine.
But if he's got nothing to hide, he's got nothing to hide, has he? So, Boris had, he got found that he had things to hide with the Beergate, and Keir Starmer didn't. I mean, he found that he could have a couple of beers and it wasn't deemed, a breakdown.
The problem you've got there is the Metropolitan Police may have different criteria than the Durham police.
Durham, yeah.
So,
Well, they like a drink in Durham, don't they? It's a party town, Rakib.
Well, I think that when you're looking at that particular situation, one police force came to their decision, another police came to their decision over a different...
Yeah, exactly. It raised an eyebrow. Well, look, the other issue that's been raised is the idea in the newspaper, Rakib, that it's Sunak versus the rest. Do you accept that argument?
I think that Sunak has his fair share of parliamentary backing. There's no two ways about that. And if you look at the bookies, that he's still favourite, I believe, to become the next leader of the Conservative Party. So there is a strong chance, there is a strong possibility that the final two would be Sunak versus someone else. But I think he will have a problem there, because I think there may be a perception among the Tory rank and file that Sunak, while he was Chancellor of Exchequer, instead of actually focusing on the economy, that behind the scenes he was putting together this leadership bid. And I think that people who are very sympathetic towards Boris Johnson, who support Boris Johnson within the Tory party membership, I don't think they'll look upon that very fondly.
Yeah, I know. I think Sunak is like a sprinter who gets out of the blocks. He's going to fade very, very quickly. I think that he who wields the dagger very rarely wears a crown. I don't think that the party faithful will forgive him for being the person that put the dagger into the Mr. Johnson.
And got Brexit done.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of it.
I could imagine, in the end, this is his swan song.
Nicola, what will the public think of a Prime Minister they've never heard of? What will they think if they wake up in late August, early September, and they find their new Prime Minister is someone called Suella Braverman or Kemi Badanok?
I don't think it will happen, will it? Because, will it? No, I don't think it will happen.
You think it will be a household name figure?
Yeah, I do. So I couldn't imagine that would happen because I don't think the British public would take to that in any way.
When you say household figure, maybe not in many households, but someone, for example, who's been very quiet, Penny Mordaunt. Now, she's got her supporters. She's been in and out of cabinet. And because she's quiet now, you might hear much more of her back in July. So it wouldn't surprise me. Somebody like her, she's a Brexiteer. She's held portfolio. She's got a common touch. She's the daughter of a military person, I believe.
Yeah.
A naval person.
That's right.
So, but quite clearly has got good at a brief. I don't know about attention to detail. I don't know about how organised she is, because she needs to have that, but she could pull that around her if that's not her bag. So someone like Penny Mordaunt, I don't know how well known she is in the country, but she's there. And she could come through, I think, the pack.
And what about a roll of the dice for the Tory party and for the country? What about a newbie, the next generation? Because that's what Margaret Thatcher was in 1975. She went on to win an election in 79. Could that be a Kemi Badanok or a Suella Braverman or a Nadhim Zahawi?
Well, I think there's even a difference between Nadhim Zahawi and
those two.
I mean, Suella Braverman too has been Attorney General for some time. Nadhim Zahawi, I thought he did good work as the COVID-19 vaccines minister and Education Secretary. Is currently Chancellor of the Exchequer. Kemi Badanok, she's been involved a great deal, almost framing herself as some kind of anti-woke trailblazer, and I think she's done some good work when talking about equality policy, levelling up, etc. But I suspect Chris is right. I think that when it comes to when you're talking about those newbies, I think for them it's more about heightening their public profile. Of course, they would love to be the next Conservative leader, but if they're not, but they've managed to put some interesting ideas out there and heighten their public profile, they'll see that as a huge positive.
A huge positive indeed. Lots more from my panel. Next up, can't wait for this conversation. Have you ever missed an important occasion to watch a sporting final? Brilliant new research from Samsung. You want to hear about that one. Also, another great British game show to come and more reaction from the papers. See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GBNews.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Lots of emails coming in relation to our conversation about the next Conservative Party leader, our next Prime Minister. Dear Mark, says Christopher, I've been a Conservative Party member for about 16 years and I'm disgusted with the lying, opportunistic, warmongering lot of them. I joined up on the suggestion that I could change the party from within. No chance. Everyone in the cabinet and others besides are liars, deceivers or idiots. They all knew what was going on with Partygate but tried to hush it up. It's a long and very well-written email. I wish I had time for all of it, but Christopher, thank you for sharing your views. Lots more to come before 11 o'clock. With me, my amazing panel, Olympian Chris Akabusi, TV personality Nicola McLean, and columnist at The Critic, Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Now, the Wimbledon tennis final took place today with Novak Djokovic beating Australian Nick Kyrgios. No doubt millions of people tuned in for the event at the All England Club. According to Samsung Newsroom UK, a quarter of the nation admit to missing a wedding to watch their favourite TV show or live sporting event on telly. So have you ever skipped an important occasion in order to go to a concert or watch a sporting final? Chris?
I nearly missed the birth of my second daughter while I was training in Thornhill in Southampton. I was running up the hills. I got a call to go down 9:30 in the evening, and there was Monica, my wife at the time, pushing heavily for our little daughter. I caught the legs flopping out of my little second daughter. I nearly missed it, but there you go.
It's a brilliant story. Samsung have done some research on this. 2 in 5 have stated that they've argued with family or friends on who gets to watch their favourite sport on the main TV. 39% stated that this has caused an argument where an individual in the household has left to watch their favourite sporting event somewhere else. I mean, it really divides people, Nicola.
My husband was a professional footballer, and when I went into labour with our first son, I didn't tell him because he was playing and I didn't want him to miss the game and I didn't want him to stress. So I thought, it's going to take ages, isn't it? So I literally carried on, and then when he finished, said, hurry up. And he made it. It's fine.
He made it.
Yeah.
So it was like the referee blows the final whistle and then...
Yeah.
Forget the unibath. Boom!
Yeah, I just thought, do you know what? Like, it was the first child. I didn't know whether it was like Braxton Hicks. I didn't know. And I am so competitive. Football is everything to me. I was like, no, you need to be playing, you need to win. I can do this on my own. But he actually said to me, if I'd have missed it, I'd have been fuming with you.
Yeah.
So I made the wrong decision as a family, but as a team, I made the right decision.
You got it right.
Yeah.
I mean, Rakib, the other aspect of this Samsung survey is that TV and sports fans have missed major events such as weddings, that's 25%. A friend or family's birthday, 26%. A child's dance recital, a quarter of those responding to the survey, so they could watch their favourite show or sport on TV. People are very selfish, aren't they?
Oh, there's a lot of weddings, though, isn't there? You know, when it's wedding season, there's a lot of weddings. I think, listen, we're a country, we love our sports on the whole. There's lots of people...
Like, the amount of times my husband just props the
I
phone
know.
Yeah. People find innovative ways to try and combine the two. I think you'll see a lot of that
I've got
coming
to
up.
say, if Tottenham got to the Champions League final, I'd probably miss my wedding, but I do hope Mrs. Dolan isn't watching. Luckily,
It won't happen, so you're fine.
It's time now for the Great British Game Show. Today marks the end of Wimbledon, so we thought we'd celebrate the last fortnight of tennis with a bit of general knowledge on the sport. So we're going to play a game, and it's called New Balls, Please. That's right. So here we go. This is the first question for you at home, listening and watching, and my panel in the studio. Who is the lead actor in the movie Wimbledon? Do you remember that film? It was a big hit. Who's the famous actor that starred in that? It is Kirsten Dunst. Well done. There she is. She looks the part. Which film director won an Oscar for the film Match Point? So Match Point was a movie partly involved tennis. A famous American comedy director who's had some recent scandal. It is Woody Allen.
Oh.
OK, next up, who's famous for the catchphrase, "You cannot be serious"?
John McEnroe.
It is John McEnroe. What a legend. There he is. I love that man. One of my heroes. OK, which tennis player impregnated a woman in a cupboard at a famous restaurant?
Exactly.
You knew that one, Rakib?
When you said impregnated, I knew it's coming out of the closet, it's coming up, yeah.
It wasn't a Nando's, by the way.
No. Well,
that wasn't a chicken that he stuffed. Now, let's go to our next one. How much are strawberries and cream at Wimbledon this year?
£9.50.
£9.50. Chris?
45 quid.
45 quid. Rakib?
£6.80.
You'll be surprised. Producer Grace was at Wimbledon this year and she insists they were £2.50.
Nah.
No chance.
£2.50. Although she did say that a Pimm's was 10 quid.
So she got one strawberry, did she?
Yeah.
Exactly.
£2.50 for one
Drop of
strawberry,
cream.
dollop of cream. OK, let's crack on with our next question. What month is the Australian Open?
January.
It is January. Well done. What big tech company does Serena Williams' husband own?
Oh, no idea.
He's called Alex Ohanian, and he set up a big online chat room, if you like.
Oh,
it's not an app.
One.
Yeah, where the people exchange information with each other. It is called Reddit.
Oh, Reddit.
That's right. It's a very popular American sort of online chat room. Who played the Williams... well, I think we might have gone a bit early there.
Yeah. King Richard, Will Smith.
We have our answer. Live telly, folks. Don't you just love it? Yes, who played Serena Williams' father in the movie King Richard?
Yeah, Will Smith.
It was Will Smith, and all he got was,
Well, Chris Rock got a lot, didn't he?
Chris Rock got a slap, indeed. When's our out time, folks? OK, brilliant stuff. Look, I want to thank everybody, all my brilliant guests, for such a brilliant conversation tonight. My amazing panel as well. Loved our debate. And also, folks, you, for your company over the last 3 nights. We've had 3 really busy shows. I couldn't have done it without you. If you're enjoying the programme and if you're enjoying GB News, tell your family, tell your friends, and let's change the world together. I'm back on Friday at 9, but stick around because I'm doing headliners straight after this.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking dry, warm and sunny for most, although skies will be a little cloudier in Northern Ireland. Let's take a look at the details. After a hot and sunny day, it will stay warm this evening in southwest England, with plenty of late sunshine and a gentle breeze. Temperatures will still be in the low 20s to start the evening. It will also be a fine end to the day in the southeast, with plenty of warm evening sunshine. There will also be a keen breeze around the coast, but light winds elsewhere. A fine end to the day in Wales. Warm sunshine will continue in the south, but elsewhere it will feel a little cooler in a sea breeze. Late sunshine will continue across the Midlands this evening. After a hot day, temperatures will still be rather warm as the sun sets. Dry and sunny weather will continue this evening in northeast England. It will feel cooler around the coasts, but inland it will stay warm. Some late sunshine will continue in southern Scotland, but there will be more in the way of cloud across the west, where it will feel cooler too. A fine end to the day in Northern Ireland with some patchy cloud and sunny spells. Temperatures will still be in the high teens during the evening time. Staying dry tonight across the UK with clear skies for many, but a little cloudier around northern coasts. A mild night with temperatures in double figures, and that's how the weather is shaping up overnight until tomorrow morning.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News.